In just 3 seconds, my entire world changed. There she was, across a crowded bookstore, so lost in a novel that she didn't notice the world spinning around her. I knew right then, with a certainty that shook me to my core, that I had to know her story. Gathering every ounce of courage I had, I walked over and asked what she was reading. She looked up, and her eyes, the color of warm honey, held a universe of stories I suddenly wanted to spend a lifetime exploring. That was day one. Our first date was a disaster. I spilled coffee all over my shirt. We got caught in a sudden downpour without an umbrella, and the movie we went to see was sold out. But instead of it being awkward, we just laughed. We stood under a small awning, completely soaked, sharing stories about our worst dates ever. And in that moment, drenched and shivering, I felt warmer than I ever had. It wasn't about the perfect setting. It was about the perfect person. With her, even the messes were beautiful. We started building a life together, piece by piece. We painted our first apartment a ridiculous shade of bright yellow, arguing playfully over every brushstroke. We adopted a clumsy three-legged dog from a local shelter and named him Hopper. We cooked elaborate meals that sometimes ended in smoke alarms and pizza delivery, but always ended in laughter. We learned each other's languages. Not just Spanish or French, but the language of a comforting hand on a shoulder after a long day. The language of a shared look that said, "I get it," the language of knowing exactly what the other person needed without a single word being spoken. Of course, it wasn't always sunshine. We had our storms. There were arguments born from stress and misunderstandings that felt like earthquakes, shaking the very foundation we'd built. There were moments of doubt, moments where the pressures of life tried to pull us apart. I remember one night, after a particularly tough fight, we sat in silence on opposite ends of the sofa. The space between us felt like a canyon. I thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is where our story ends. But then she quietly got up, made 2 cups of tea, and sat back down a little closer this time. She didn't apologize, and neither did I. She just handed me the mug and said, "We're better than this." And she was right. Love isn't about never fighting. It's about deciding that what you have is worth fighting for. One autumn afternoon, I took her back to that same bookstore where we first met. I had the ring in my pocket, and my heart was hammering against my ribs so hard I was sure she could hear it. I led her to the very aisle where I first saw her. I tried to deliver the speech I'd practiced 100 times, but the words all jumbled up. So instead, I just dropped to one knee, my voice shaking, and said, "My story started the day I met you. Will you help me write the rest of it?" Tears streamed down her face as she nodded, a silent yes that was louder than any word. The other people in the bookstore, strangers who had been pretending not to watch, erupted in applause. It was our own little movie moment, and that brings us to today. Standing here, I see her across another crowded room, but this time she's walking towards me. In a white dress, with those same honey-colored eyes sparkling brighter than ever. Our journey hasn't been a fairy tale. It's been real. It's been messy and complicated and challenging. But it's also been breathtakingly beautiful. It's a story of two imperfect people who refused to give up on each other, who chose love again and again every single day. And as she takes my hand, I know with that same certainty from the bookstore that this isn't the end of our story. It's just the beginning of the very best chapter. Thanks for being a part of our journey.